All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely.
Awesome. Today, we're going to tackle smarter decision-making, and we'll be focusing on rugby. But honestly, this stuff applies everywhere.
Oh,
We're
absolutely.
talking about the sunk cost fallacy,
Hmm.
that thing where you stick with something just because you've already put in a bunch of time, money, effort, even when it's clearly a bad idea.
Yeah, yeah, we all do it. Like, I don't know, like when you go to a movie and it's awful, right?
Ugh, the worst.
But you've already paid for the ticket, so you're like, well, I'm already here.
Might as well suffer through it.
Exactly. It's like that money's gone, right? But the sunk cost fallacy makes you think that sticking it out somehow makes it worth it.
It's totally irrational, but man, it's powerful. And this research we're diving into, it shows just how much this fallacy can mess with a whole rugby program. Like it affects everyone, coaches, players, the whole shebang.
It really does. It gets into everything,
Yeah, it's kind of insidious.
Right, like you get coaches clinging to these outdated training methods just because that's how it's always been done, even if it's not working anymore.
It's like they're afraid to let go of the past.
Totally. Or they'll stick with some super complicated game plan they've spent ages on, even when it's clearly not working on the field.
Oh, and then there's the classic one, right? The veteran player. Star player, been with the team forever, but maybe they're past their prime.
Yeah, I've seen that.
But the coach is hesitant to bench him because, the club has invested so much in this player. Big transfer fees, huge salary. It's like they're trying to justify that past spending by keeping him in the game.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Have you seen that happen yourself?
Oh, definitely. Tons of times. And it just shows you how this sunk cost fallacy can really mess with good decision making.
So the big question is, how do we escape this mental trap? The research points to a few strategies, and it all comes down to shifting your focus from the past to the present. And data plays a big role there, wouldn't you say?
Oh, data is huge. You've got to have those regular performance reviews, but they have to prioritize what's happening now, not past achievements. And it can't just be casual chats, gut feelings. It's got to be objective, based on real data.
Let's talk about data then. This is where it gets really interesting. The research makes a strong case for using data to drive decisions in rugby. And I'm not just talking about analyzing matches after they're done. It's about using real-time data to make decisions during the game.
That's the future right there.
So we're talking about stuff like tackle efficiency, line breaks, meters gained. These are the things that really show you how a player's performing.
Not their reputation, not what they did last season. It's all about what's happening on the field right now.
So instead of going with their gut or relying on past performance, coaches can look at this real-time data and adjust their strategy on the fly.
Exactly. You got to be flexible and willing to let go of those old ideas, Like, let's say a player's tackle efficiency suddenly tanks, or the GPS shows they're not covering as much ground as usual. The coach can see that hard data and make a smart decision about substitutions or changing tactics.
It's about responding to what's actually happening right in that moment.
Absolutely. You got to adapt. And this data-driven approach, it's not just about individual players, It can totally change a team's whole strategy. The research talks about this really cool case study, a rugby club that completely redid their whole attacking system.
Oh, yeah. They spent ages developing this crazy complicated system, right?
Exactly. Months of practice, thought it was going to be their secret weapon, but then they started tracking the data. And the numbers weren't good. Scoring was down, turnovers were up, the players were frustrated.
They were stuck in that sunk cost mindset, huh? Like, we put so much into this, it has to work.
Totally. But to their credit, they trusted the data. They ditched that fancy system and went back to basics, Just a simpler, more flexible approach.
So what happened? Did it work?
It was amazing. Their scoring went way up, the players were happier, and they became way more unpredictable. It was like letting go of that sunk cost actually unlocked their potential.
That's awesome. It's
Yeah.
just like walking out of that bad movie, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This just shows you how important it is to let go of those past investments, no matter how big.
This isn't just about rugby, is it? This is like a life lesson.
Absolutely. We're talking about recognizing those times when you're holding on to something just because you've already put so much into it, a job, a relationship, even a hobby you don't enjoy anymore.
Yeah, it's so easy to fall into that trap of, I've invested too much to quit now. But sometimes walking away is the smartest thing you can do.
For sure. It takes guts to break free from this sunk cost fallacy, The research even compares it to how players are trained to focus on the next play, not dwell on mistakes. It's the same idea off the field.
Don't let the past steal your present.
Right. Exactly. And the research actually calls on coaches to be leaders in this, to
Ah.
ditch the sunk cost thinking and create a team culture that's all about data-driven decisions.
Yeah, that's huge. But it can't be easy to change an entire team's mindset, right?
Yeah.
Where do you even start?
Start small. The research suggests picking one specific area of your program, evaluating it objectively based on current data, and then seeing what happens.
Little steps, build that momentum.
Right.
It's like, prove it to yourself that this data stuff actually works.
Exactly. And those small wins, they can make it easier to apply that same thinking to other areas.
So if someone's listening, they're fired up, ready to make a change. They found that sunk cost in their own life, maybe a job they hate. What advice would you give them?
First off, awesome. Recognizing the problem is huge. Second, be kind to yourself. It's normal to hesitate, even feel a little guilty about letting go of something you've invested in.
Okay, to move on.
Right. And third, think about what you could gain. What awesome opportunities might open up if you ditch that sunk cost? What could you experience? How could you grow?
It's like shifting your perspective from what you're losing to what you could gain.
And remember, every minute you spend thinking about those sunk costs is a minute you're not building the future you want. So make the decision, take that leap, and don't look back. You might be surprised how good it feels.
I love that don't look back. We have the power to choose our own path. Sometimes that means letting go no matter how much we've put in.
It's about breaking free from the past and seeing all the possibilities in front of you.
Wow, this has been amazing. It's like we found this secret weapon for success, not just in rugby, but like you said, in life.
Yeah, the sunk cost fallacy, it gets us all. But now we know how to spot it right. We can make smarter choices.
You know, the research pointed out something interesting about those really successful rugby programs. It wasn't just about money or talent.
It's like what really set them apart was their ability to adapt, to evolve, make tough decisions, and not get hung up on past investments.
They were agile. They weren't afraid to change direction, even if it meant admitting they made a mistake.
That's tough, though. Takes guts to challenge how things have always been done, to trust the data, even when it's telling you something you don't want to hear.
So to all our listeners, be bold, be data-driven, and don't let that sunk cost fallacy hold you back. What's one sunk cost you're ready to ditch? What awesome move are you going to make to build that future you want?
The future is yours, remember that.
That's all for this week's Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.